good afternoon to everybody. Pleased to be with everybody today. You know, this is such an important topic as we will start to see over the next hour that we are together. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at how we are going to be able to work having an agile mindset. So I think I'll just advance the slide and just take a little moment to talk about myself. So I'm Brett Palmer. I'm the owner and founder of Brett Palmer and Associates. We're based here in Orange County. I am a failure coach. My team and I, we teach businesses and organizations how to fail. Now you might wonder, well, why would anybody hire a failure coach? Well, if we can fail fast, then we can learn quickly and we can take advantages of opportunities in the marketplace. And those opportunities can become quite profitable. So just a little bit about me. I'm in Orange County. I used to travel around teaching classes, and I play piano and I compose music on the side. But my big love is this material, and I love doing and talking and teaching people about Agile. So I'm an enterprise Agile coach and trainer. I'm a certified Agile coach. I have some training in ORSC, which is Organization and Relationship Systems Coaching. I have provided transformation guidance for anywhere from the small startups to large Fortune 10 companies, both consulting and training. I've been practicing Agile for a while, since 2008, and I've been training since 2004. So I was an instructional designer. I worked in the automotive industry with the big automotive companies building their online training. So I've got a lot of experience in running projects, got a number of different certifications as well. So you are in good hands. We won't go into all this at the moment, but what I want to do is just sort of get a sense of why you are here and what challenges you are facing. And the way that we'll do this is we'll actually, if you can, I know some of you might be, driving at the moment and might not be able to be in front of a computer, but we have a shared Google Doc, which I'll put in the chat window, and you'll see a link to that Google Doc. And if we could all go in there and right from that and I'll just share my screen here on the other computer, and we'll just go in here real quick. And if you could all just come here and just say, what is your biggest challenge right now, business-wise, work-wise, that you're currently facing? And if you could just all log in here, and if you are in front of your computer, we can just document that and get a sense of maybe what is on your mind. When you think about your challenges, these could be the things that are your headaches, the things that you wish you could make go away. If we could wave a magic wand. Failure bow. This is one of the concepts of having an agile mindset, is we will recognize our failures and we take a failure bow and we celebrate these opportunities to learn. All right, I need to fix my macros sometimes. All right, so biggest challenges that you're currently faced. Okay, resource management. Okay, this is great because this talk that we're going to have is going to directly relate to this, having limited resources. And if we talk to people that are running a bunch of projects, we definitely see that. Team management, limited resources, knowing where you are in the process of tasks. Oh, the small budgets, right? We try to get a lot done with a little bit of budgets. Okay, really good. Really great. Yeah, so we can definitely see that there are some of these challenges that get in the way of having projects go well. And these could be projects that you are even working around the house on a Saturday afternoon. So it doesn't necessarily always, translate into big enterprise projects. These could be things just in your own, things that are happening to you personally as well. Okay, senior management that wants different results, but without changing anything. Yeah, we got to be willing to be able to be open-minded. All right, so really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to actually now go back over to my other slide deck here, and we'll continue it over here. Thank you for that. All right. So we're going to talk about Agile. And before we get into it, I just want to preface that we're going to be taking a 100,000-foot view of the whole thing. So we have a lot to dive into. And when we speak of Agile, I'm going to first talk about it officially. And it officially comes from something known as the Agile Manifesto. So we want to first talk about the Agile Manifesto, and then we'll learn about the 4 values, and we'll learn about the 12 principles, okay? So we want to first learn about the Agile Manifesto. But before we do that, we want to talk about why companies even want to adapt and do something like Agile. Like, what's the problem? Like, if there was no problem, we wouldn't even be here on this call trying to figure out a new way and a new approach for doing work. Okay, so really quickly, I just want to show you that if you were to go into Google and you were to type in accelerating pace of change, this slide will come up. This is something that was in a Time magazine a while back, and you'll see a timeline of just the computing technical power. And this is just an example of what's going on in society in general. The rate in which technology and the speed of life is happening at an accelerated pace. I mean, what we are holding and carrying around with us in our pockets used to fill a room. And I remember back in the 80s, you know, a whole entire supercomputer would fill an entire room. And now we can carry that supercomputer essentially in our pockets. And so the world is speeding up. And so, of course, how we interact with the world, how we deliver projects, how we get things done also has to speed up. So if we look at some surprising statistics, and I'll just sort of gloss over this, but it's really interesting when we start to look at why projects might be challenged, why some projects suffer. And some of these things would really stand out. The first bullet point in particular, the US economy loses billions of dollars each year because of failed projects. And then one of my other favorite ones is the very last one. And we see that sometimes when we think about our projects in the office, we feel that our projects are doomed from the start. Now, I don't know, just a show of hands or just maybe unmute and say aye. How many of you have felt sometimes where your projects are doomed from the start? For just, okay, see a couple hands here. Yeah. And, you know, and that is obviously, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails. It can be quite frustrating when that happens. Okay, and so when we start to think about our projects and while they're difficult to manage, and what is our idea of success? You know, when you think about a successful project, what would be, let me just ask you guys who are here, just unmute and share out what might be some qualities of a successful project. Really great. If we were to talk to any kind of project manager, they're going to be actually asking about that on time and on budget. And what we want to do here is we want to really talk about that here for a moment. So what I'm going to do here is, can everybody see my iPad here? Because I think it's good if we can just draw it out here for a moment. So a traditional project manager is usually managing something called the triple constraints. I've got what's called our triple constraints: our scope, our schedule, and our budget. And so, for example, if a client says to me, hey, Brett, build me the car, what am I going to do? I'm going to go grab my architect and I'm going to go say, okay, I'm going to be like, Vinod, let's go. And we're going to go to Chili's on a Friday night. On the back of a napkin, my architect is drawing out, you know, what he thinks might be a car, because he's built many cars in his previous lives, right? And we figure out, oh, the wheels are going to be 100,000 to make, and the engine is 500,000, and the chassis is 300,000. And over the course of appetizers, main entree, drinks, dessert, good conversation, we arrive in about an hour and a half. Like, this car, we think we can do it for about $3 million, and we can have this thing delivered by February of 2024. All right, now let me just put it out to the group here. How many of you think that we're going to have a car as planned in February of 2024? What do you guys think? No, yeah. Well, we might have car parts. You see, I might have a car seat finished. It's 100% done, but it's sitting on the sidewalk getting wet in the rain. And I might have an engine that's done, but it's not like hooked into anything. Like I can't actually do anything with these different components here. So I'm going to go to my team and I'm going to say, hey team, how much more time do you need? And they're going to be like, oh, we need another 6 months. And I'm going to be like, okay. And I'm going to take my calculator out and calculate their burn rate. And then I'm going to go to my clients or my stakeholders. I'm going to be like, really sorry to tell you this, but I'm going to need more money and more budget. And now I have to get 24 signatures signed. And then I got to go to my financial officers upstairs and re-baseline the project and just make sure that, everybody is on board with going for another 6 months and finally can get this thing done in, I don't know, August of 2024, something like that. With me? So these types of traditional projects have these kinds of approaches where we fix the scope, meaning the scope is locked. We knew we were building the car. We had this big idea, and then we tried to execute it and we tried to deliver it. And then when we came up a little bit short at the end, we ended up having to flex on the schedule and flex on the budget. Does everybody see that? We asked for more money and more time. Okay, and this is what we do a lot in traditional projects. Okay, and it can be software projects or it can just be any kind of projects, really. Okay, now there were some groups of people who, in this particular case, were software developers. Okay, so Agile, this concept of Agile comes from software, but that was 20 years ago, and we're starting to see this mindset being used in any industry. Okay, so I first want to just talk about it from a software perspective. Okay, software is inherently difficult because you got to kind of see it to know if you're even building something in the right direction. So a group of people got together and they came up with some new values and principles and some new approaches for delivering software projects. And we're going to get to that, and that's called the Agile Manifesto. And what we're going to end up seeing then in the Agile Manifesto is a flipping of this paradigm. What we see in the Agile Manifesto is now we're taking our traditional paradigm and we're inverting it essentially. And what we're doing is for Agile, we're saying, look, our schedule is going to be up top, our budget's going to be up top, and our scope is going to be at the bottom, and we are going to fix the schedule and the budget, and we're going to flex on scope. Okay, so let's take the examples. Client wants the car. Client comes to me and says, Brett, build me the car. If we're doing it in an Agile way, I'm going to be like, oh, time out here, customer. We're an Agile shop, right? And then I'm going to be like, what problem are you trying to solve? Because we get to partner now because we're Agile. So now I get to work with my customer and I want to get inside their head. And I find out that they need the car because they want to go to the grocery store and buy milk, bread, eggs, or whatever they want to buy. Okay, so now that I understand my customer and I really understand their problem, I can say to my team, hey team, what can you give me in 2 weeks? Right? We don't want to necessarily wait 3 years before delivering value. Hey team, what can I give them in just a couple of weeks? And I get a unicycle. And that has a little bit of value. I mean, it's not sexy, but you could I could hire a acrobat to ride a unicycle to the local 7-Eleven, which is like 2 blocks away, buy a candy bar and bring it back to me, okay? And it is valuable. I mean, it is a slice of value. It's usable. A unicycle is usable. It's, again, not the full-blown car, but we can use it and learn from it. And we show it to the customer and we say, what do you like about it? And they like the fact that it's lightweight. And we say, great. And team, do more with that unicycle. We'll see you in 2 more weeks. And then maybe a couple of weeks later, we get a bicycle, right? They've added handlebars to it. They've got some wheels to it. And now we show that to the customer and they like the bicycle a lot better because they can steer it. They can go a little further. But now the bicycle it actually like is making their legs tired because they're not used to like riding it and pedaling it. Their legs are getting tired. And their particular grocery store that they want to go to buy their milk, bread, and eggs and everything like that, that grocery store is 5 miles away. And they're not used to riding that much distance. Hey team, what can you do? Their legs are getting tired. And again, 2 weeks later, or a little bit later, we can get our motorcycle, right? Now we have another slice of value, right? And we give that to the customer and we let them use a motorcycle, and they like the motorcycle, they can get to the store. Do you see where we're delivering value early, we're delivering value often, and each time we're iterating on this, what we build them and what we give them, and that solution of getting to the grocery store to buy stuff gets better and better over time. Now, with the motorcycle, there's only 2 people that can ride on a motorcycle, and maybe there's 4 people at the client's office. Well, team, what can you do? And now they develop the golf cart, you see? So that gets maybe our final delivery, but then we're out of time, right? Because we fixed our schedule and our budget, and maybe we only had enough money for this team for 9 months. Now, a golf cart is not the car, but maybe it's good enough, right? And maybe it's just enough where the client could say, you know what, we're actually happy with the car. We're actually good. Like, we don't need to keep going. Or maybe they want to keep going. Well, then in this case, they can give us more money. But what we're doing is essentially flexing our scope along the way. We started with a unicycle and we kept iterating it and delivering our value along the way as we were developing. So here in our other paradigm, we were delivering value at the very end. We were trying to define all the requirements up front, delivering value after a number of years. Here we're delivering value along the way. And the nice thing about doing this is we have what's called an emergent scope. We can pivot because the conditions in the marketplace are changing all around us. And what happens is that maybe along the way, right, you're in the middle of this and your customer starts talking about the school kids that need to, get to school, and there's 60 of them, and you're like, wait a second, we were building this car, but now this thing is morphed. And now you start to realize, wait a second, we're building the school bus actually, and we need to pivot, and we can pivot what we're building with a more of an emergent scope. Okay. Here, when our client says about this, starts talking about school kids and stuff, now it's a big process, right? We have to say timeout, and we have to like document all the new requirements, or we have developed the car, give it to the customer, and they say, well, we don't want this car anymore. We need the school bus. Like, it was the wrong solution. So the point I'm trying to make is that with an agile approach, we are developing something that has fit for purpose. You'll get all of these drawings. I'll put these in the Google Doc. The point I'm trying to make is, in an agile approach, you're partnering with your clients, you're collaborating throughout the process, and you're developing something that's actually usable, that they actually need, that actually has value in the marketplace. That's the right thing. You're building the right thing. So these approaches started to emerge, and that is what we now are calling Agile. Any questions on this before I move on? You can use the chat, or you can just interrupt. I just want to pause for a moment and make sure we kind of get the paradigm shift here. Yeah, so you've got to make the case, right? And you're gonna want to make the case for why would we want to do this, right? So that's the slide that I'm on. Actually, it was a perfect question because it leads us into our next topic here. So it's like, why would anybody want to do this? So if you make the case to management and you can back it up with data, then I think that will actually help the case here. So let's actually just talk about this here real quick. So why Agile? So what we want to do is talk about why would we want to adopt an Agile mindset. Here are some reasons. Okay, so these reasons actually come from various surveys that have come out in the marketplace. So there's something called the 15th annual State of Agile report. And this gets produced every year in the spring. And each year, different companies and different people, there's about several thousand people respond to this survey. And these are the reasons why companies want to start adopting an Agile approach. Every company has their own reasons. The main reasons that you're going to see, can anybody guess? So this is not in the order that we normally find it. These are the reasons that companies go Agile. But now, yeah, let me show you. I will actually pull up the State of Agile report. So this is from this year's State of Agile report, the 15th annual, and this is always a page inside that report. Look at this, right? Enhance the ability to manage changing priorities, accelerate software delivery, increase team productivity, improve business IT alignment. So this is where you'd want to start to look and try to see if you can glean any kind of data. A lot of executives like to make data-driven decisions. So if it's something that is of interest, I recommend looking at the benefits of going Agile. And it's probably somewhere in the line of being able to deliver value to your customers with predictability. In fact, I've had clients come to me, for example, advertising agencies come to me and say, Brett, we want to go Agile because we can't meet delivery predictability with our clients, and our clients are getting frustrated. And so this is exactly why we might want to look at it. Yeah, a fantastic question. And this is where the paradigm breaks. Really great, Barbara, right? Because here's what I just got done saying. We are wanting to have a flexible scope, and these government contracts want us to bid on fixed scope. Right? And so there's the paradigm shift. So not very well. And what's even more complicated is that these same governmental contracts also make it a requirement to be Agile. So now you're just left flummoxed, like, well, what does that mean? So that's what we end up trying to do, is we say, okay, and a lot of big government agencies and clients are struggling with, what does it actually mean when we're trying to be Agile inside of this greater fixed scope? So that's, I think, really where this conversation, where this talk originates from is, okay, well, what does it actually really mean then in our everyday life? Okay, whether we're building software or what we're trying to do, because obviously now we've broken the mold. Does everybody see that? Right? In its purest sense, Agile is really around partnering with your customer, being able to flex when needed, respond to the changing conditions in the marketplace, and deliver value early and deliver value often in order to build the right thing. Because if we build the right thing, then we have a happy customer and our product is usable. But when we are not able to do that, that's when we run into some issues. So I hope I answered Barbara's question. There's a longer explanation, but for the point of this particular talk, I think we'll leave it like that. But yeah, government, those fixed bid contracts can become really, fixed scope can be challenging. All right. I hope I answered that. So I see in the chat, we've got, okay. All right, really great. So let's talk about the Agile Manifesto. And then I wanna talk about how we can take these concepts from software development and then apply it to our everyday. All right, so I'm just gonna then go ahead and I'm gonna share now from my other screen here. All right. Okay, so if we go and we look at the website, which you'll all get in the Google Doc, it's the agilemanifesto.org. This is it. It's just less than 100 words. And like I said, it comes from software development. These people that you see in the background, These were those people that you see their names here at the bottom. Those were the signatories. Those were the folks that got together in 2001 to talk about the ways in which they could possibly deviate from that traditional paradigm. Okay, that was that first triangle that I drew. They were frustrated with the ways that they had to interact with their clients and the whole structure of trying to come up with all the requirements up front and then all the risks that were involved. And so various lightweight approaches started to emerge, and that's when they got together to say, what do we all have in common with our different ideas? So if we see here, we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. And through this work, we've come to value. And they list their 4 values. And then they say that is where there is value on the items on the right. We value the items on the left more. So what they're saying is, yeah, we've got processes and tools, but we want to focus on individuals and interactions more than the processes and tools. Yes, we're going to have documentation, but we're going to focus on working software. Yes, we're going to have contracts, but we want to make sure that we're collaborating. Yes, we're going to follow a plan, but we want to be able to respond to change so we can end up building the right thing. So these are the 4 values. Now you can see it comes from software, but how might it look in any other industry? Okay, it might say something like, we are uncovering better ways of developing value or delivering value. Okay, by doing it and helping others do it, right? And so then in our second line here, where it says working software, we could just replace it with value, something that's of value, as opposed to just a whole bunch of stuff that gets documented, like actually having something that we can see, feel, touch, and play with, right? To actually have something. So it's really around these 4 values that then we see what are called 12 principles. Okay, so what we want to do here for the next little bit here is I want to go through each one of these 12 principles with you guys, and I want to distill them down to its core essential nuggets. Okay, and for that, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Google document here. If you will oblige me here, we'll go right here, and we'll go here to the one that says Agile Manifesto 12 Principles. Can everybody see that right here? It's a little right here. We started it, and I'm not sure. Okay, here we can go. Here it got a little messed up here. So what I'll do is I'm going to just share it on my iPad, where we'll be able to take a look at it better. Okay, let's take a look at it. Okay, so these are the 12 principles of the Agile Manifesto. It's on the next page of that website. So I gave you the web page here, and you'll have access to this Google document. So what I want to do is kind of go through it, and then we're going to look at what it means for us and how we might want to work. So the first principle says our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software, or in this case, value. So what we're saying here is deliver value early. And this is really key, right? Don't make your customers wait 3 years for something, right? Want to deliver value early. And we see this all the time at restaurants, right? You go and you place your order, and what do you get? After a few minutes, you get your appetizer. That's value, right? We're hungry. We want to eat something. So think about in anything that you do, if there are opportunities for you to deliver something early. Now, when I say value, it's actually got to be valuable, and it has to be usable. Now, you can define usable in whatever context that might be, but it's valuable. So for example, let me take, for example, brushing my teeth, okay? If I'm going to brush my teeth in the morning, I'm gonna put toothpaste on my toothbrush, and I'm gonna zigzag around my mouth for 4 or 5 minutes, and then at the very end, ta-da, I'm done brushing my teeth, right? But if I were to say, well, how would I deliver value early? I might just brush the front and the back of one tooth, and floss in between on both sides of that tooth. And then I'd be like, ta-da. And it not only might take me 20 or 30 seconds to do that, but now I can be like, ta-da, I got a tooth done, right? And it's valuable, it's a clean tooth, right? And so that's how we have to kind of think about working in an agile approach, right? To think about how we might have opportunities to deliver anything that we're working on early, okay? So the second one is welcome changing requirements even late in development, right? So your customers can give you feedback and be able to pivot you. And you want to make sure that agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. So we want to just say change is a good thing. We want to be able to change on a dime for a dime. We want to be able to pivot. And again, this is frowned upon by a lot of traditional project managers, because when they think about change, they think, oh, I got to document all this, I got to get it all approved. And yeah, because the process is so full of paperwork and documentation. But the idea is, let's start with a lightweight approach in the beginning that expects change. Think about it. If you are expecting there to be changes, you might tiptoe a little bit more than you might normally tiptoe, right? And you might defer decisions to the last possible responsible moment, right? This is one of the ideas, is trying to defer decisions to the last possible responsible moment, and to keep your documentation lightweight as much as possible. We like to say minimally sufficient, right? Barely sufficient documentation, because we might need to change things and we want to be flexible to be able to do that. Okay, so this is another look for opportunities then in your life where you might be able to pivot. Okay, this one is deliver working software frequently. We could replace working software with value. Deliver value frequently. So if you think about my car analogy, I didn't just deliver the unicycle and then made the client wait. No, we delivered the unicycle, then the bicycle, then the motorcycle. So we kept delivering the value often. And this is really important, is look for those opportunities to deliver value often, every few weeks. And then you're bringing your customer to look at that value and give you feedback. And that's where new requirements might emerge. That's where other things might fall off the table. And you end up reducing your risks, right? There's a lot of risk at the beginning of a project. And what you do then is you start to limit the amount of risk that you have by this kind of development approach. And this is a really great opportunity to do something called iterative and incremental development, where we want to look at opportunities for developing in an iterative and incremental way. So let me actually show you what I mean by iterative and incremental, just so we are all on the same page about that. So how many of you have been to Paris? Any of you? A couple of you? All right. Okay. So if we were to think about being someone who is going to develop this Mona Lisa in an incremental way, this is what it might look like, right? We're going to develop in this kind of piece by piece cycle, right? And each piece is complete. And we visualize this Mona Lisa in its entirety, all the requirements up front. And a lot of traditional projects are run like this, okay? Where we visualize the whole thing up front and then deliver it in pieces. Now, there's another approach where we kind of think, well, I think the clients might want a woman in a pastoral setting. And we sketch it out, we show it to our client. Is this right? Do customers want to buy this? Because maybe they don't want to buy this. Maybe they want to buy a barn in the meadow instead. And Kickstarter, right, is great for that, right? This is Kickstarter. This is, let's mock something up. Let's put it out there and let's see how many people actually want to back this idea up with their money. And if we get so much money, then we can actually develop this. And if nobody's interested, then we've just saved ourselves a lot of time. And that is so agile in its mindset, right? We want to validate our assumptions. Really important to validate our assumptions before we spend a lot of time and money and energy building the thing and then finding out that it's not the right thing. So developing an iterative approach allows us to rework what we've previously done, okay? And we sort of can eventually get to our end goal. Now, it's really cool when we can combine both iterative and incremental approaches. Right now, it's really great because now we get the best of both worlds. Okay, so look for opportunities to develop those Mona Lisa slices and then deliver them to your customer. Okay, so for example, this one might be a proof of concept. It's your minimum viable product. It might be some mock-up. It's some prototype. It is something that tests your assumptions to get feedback, to validate the concept. And now we develop maybe the first release, which is just her head. We deliver that to the marketplace. We get some money coming in that can help. That money came in, and now we can fund an internal release, maybe then her whole torso, and go from there. So look for those opportunities to work iteratively and incrementally. Is this helpful for folks to think about, right, ways to deliver value often? Think about those Mona Lisa slices. Okay, these next few will go fairly quickly. Business people and developers working together daily. So think about what this means in our everydays. Think about the teams that we're working with. Are they empowered? And we want to make sure that we actually are collaborating between the customer, in this case, the business people, and the people that are actually doing the work. To think about, right, ways to deliver value often. Think about those Mona Lisa slices. Okay, these next few will go fairly quickly. Business people and developers working together daily. So think about what this means in our everydays. Think about the teams that we're working with. Are they empowered? And we want to make sure that we actually are collaborating between the customer, in this case, the business people, and the people that are actually doing the work. Think about the middlemen between your customer and the people that are actually the builders of your product. Those middlemen become bottlenecks sometimes in the flow of communication. So what Agile is asking us to do is, let's bring the people together. Let's bring the client, let's bring the customer together with the people that are actually building this thing, okay? And whatever that looks like in your own context, let's try to collaborate together daily. Any opportunity to bring people together to make sure that you're building the right thing. So it's there to really try to reduce risk. You want to make sure that you are really keeping in sync with the customer, because that helps to build trust. We've got a few more, and I'm looking at the time, so I want to make sure we go through the rest of these, but they're fairly quick, okay? But Kristen, I hope I kind of addressed that for you. Okay, good. Okay, build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. This is really where we want to empower our teams. And if we can defer the decisions to the team, then what we can do is that makes them actually feel like they're valued. And that becomes huge, especially in larger organizations where a lot of times those decisions are centrally made by some other corporate group, and then those decisions trickle down to the team. If we can find opportunities to empower our teams, to trust the teams, that goes a long way. There's a book called Management 3.0 that's really great, and it goes into different levels of empowerment for the team. But just think of that in the back of your mind. Am I empowering the team? Am I delegating things to the team, or am I micromanaging? Okay. And then the next one is really around how we communicate. And what we're saying is the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face. And again, just think of it as anybody that you're talking to. If we can be, in person, obviously is great. But if not, maybe take advantage of the technology. Now, when this was written 20 years ago, we weren't doing that much video conferencing 20 years ago, but now, I mean, it's like our daily lives. So I think we've got this one pretty much handled. Okay. This next one, working software is a primary measure of progress. What this just means is value, to show your work. Right. And this is like, you could replace this with value, and whatever that value means to you, show your work. And what that does is it builds trust, right? So you're not going dark on your client for 3 years. You're showing them the work along the way, and you're being completely open about it. It's not a smoke and mirror, trying to look good. Like, you're actually really being authentic in your partnership, in your sharing. You're explaining what is going well, what's not going well. And this is really designed to really build trust. You got to be vulnerable sometimes with your clients, with each other, because leadership requires being vulnerable. Because if others see you being vulnerable and you being authentic, then they're going to be more likely to build trust. I hope that's making sense. And there's some brain science around trust as well, because when we have a team that has trust with each other, we have oxytocin, we've got these really great chemicals, and we are activating our prefrontal cortex where all the creativity and innovation is happening. But if we're in a fear-based toxic culture, that's when we have cortisol shooting through our bodies, and now that whole prefrontal cortex where the creativity and innovation is happening, that's all shut down, and we're being operated by that primal brain stem area. That's that fight or flight response, and that's not so great. We're not going to be developing really awesome, fantastic products and being innovative if we're running around just trying to cover our butts and everybody's blaming each other. That's a toxic environment. So we want to build trust. This becomes really important. Okay, sustainable development. Agile processes promote a sustainable development. Sponsors, developers, users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. And this is really important because we want to have predictability. And when we are going 60 miles an hour down the highway and we have to get from LA to San Diego, we can predict how long it's going to take us to get there. But if we're in stop and go traffic, who knows, right? And it's the same way with our teams. Plus, morale improves when we actually get a little bit of a weekend. Quality goes up when we are having a sustainable pace. So really important. Obviously, we want to build continuous attention and technical excellence and good design enhances agility. And what we mean by that is build quality in. Don't make your end users, don't make your customers be your quality control department, right? Actually try to build quality in, and people respond to that as well. People like to get up in the morning knowing that they're doing great things in the world. So build quality in, and whatever you're building, try to do it to your best, because it's really expensive to make changes later on. And then obviously the next one, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. This is really just about keeping it simple. Now, the way that we do this in Agile is through something called the time box. We work in small time boxes, and we're going to focus. So we're going to focus on doing a certain amount of work in a certain amount of time box. I mean, and in our everyday life, it could be a 25-minute time box where we're going to set a vision for the 2 things you want to get done inside of a time box. you crank it out in 25 minutes, and then at the end, you might celebrate for 5 minutes and then do something else for another 25 minutes. And there's a really great website called focusmate.com that I think is a great way of doing that. And it uses some brain science behind that. So that is it if you want to focus in a 25-minute time box. But a lot of teams will work in 2-week time boxes. But there's many different ways to think about your time box. It could be your entire day, but you want to just focus on just keeping it simple and only those things that you're going to work on inside of that time box. It's really huge. Just like this, just like this presentation, right? It's inside of the time box, okay? And then just like this presentation, you're not getting everything about Agile, but you're getting a Mona Lisa slice that's usable inside of the time box. Everybody see how that works? See? Okay, last couple, go really quick. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. This gets back into empowering our teams, but also letting people who are building the work best be able to decide how that works is getting done. So if we, again, going back to empowering our people is trying to think about how we are forming our teams and bring people together that can self-organize. So create self-organized teams. For example, I was at a company, we had 60 people, we brought them all in a room and said, self-organize yourself into 6 teams. We gave them some requirements around what we wanted each team to have, and they were able to do that in about 20 minutes. And then we looked at that and we said, well, you're in violation of those requirements, and a couple teams weren't quite great. So we gave them another 10 minutes to fix it, and it was really easy. So people know what they're doing. I mean, just really empower them and you'll be excited at the amount of time that you saved, because they self-organized into generally the same amount of, that they self-organized into the teams that the managers would have assigned them anyway. People like to work with their friends, and they were all like trying to come over here to my team. And it's a lot of fun when we can work with people that we enjoy working with. And then at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So this is inspect and adapt, right? This is like, take a look at what you're doing, and every so often on regular intervals, regular cadences, ask yourself, what do I need to change about what I'm doing? So that might be every 2 weeks, it might be every month, right? But we have something called a retrospective that has a lot to do with how we bring people together on a regular basis and just reflect, what are our working agreements with each other? How are we working? Is this working? Do we need to change our communication? How are we communicating after hours? How are we, improving? Are we continuously improving? And it works really well in your personal life too, inspecting and adapting in your relationships with others, looking at your working agreements, finding opportunities to improve things. If you go on vacation with your family, at the end of the vacation, write down what went well, what didn't go well, what you might want to remember for next time. These are simple things, but it really makes a difference over the course of many months and years. So that's it. So you guys got the real basic idea of Agile as it comes from software, as we might want to apply it to our own lives. All right, and I'll leave it up for any last minute questions. Agile really is a way that a lot of organizations are now starting to adopt, because it will reduce risk and it will actually create trust. It empowers people. People like the culture that goes along with it. And there can be a lot of real benefits to being able to collaborate with your clients in order to build the right thing, and a lot less rework. So there's a lot of examples out there of how companies benefit from this kind of mindset. Now this, yeah, so these are the mindset elements from the Agile. You've got my email, and feel free to reach out and we can go from there. And if I can't help you directly, I know a lot of other people in the industry and in adjacent industries that I might be able to recommend or refer you to. So so there's always that as well. So I'm very highly connected to a bunch of different people. So this is really, I think, really where a lot of people struggle, because there are options now that never used to be there. So the way that it used to be, remember that first triangle that I drew where, that first one on the left, traditional, that was the PMI, the Project Management Institute, and their whole ecosystem, and they have several certifications, but that was essentially it for many, many years. Then the whole Agile, this other triangle, comes on the scene, and then the Project Management Institute obviously they had to absorb it, right? So what they've done is they incorporated a lot of elements now in their what's called their project management body of knowledge. And so when I got certified in PMI as a PMP, as a project management professional, many years ago, it was primarily looking at that first triangle that I drew. But now people who go through their programs, even for their flagship PMP, you are going to be learning and incorporating those Agile concepts. It's part of the project manager's body of knowledge. Now, what they've done is they've acquired some intellectual property from a couple of other places. There were some thought leaders that were out there developing really great content, and the Project Management Institute went to these places. They went to Disciplined Agile, and they went to Al Shalloway and something called Flex, and they incorporated these technologies incorporated it into their body of knowledge. Okay, so if you were to pursue a PMP, you would be learning the whole thing. Now, yeah, which is obviously like gives you a lot of things. And then of course what I do is I specialize in the Agile stuff in particular, and a lot of companies they're more Agile oriented, but there's hybrids, and a lot of companies under the hood when you really look, they say they're Agile, but they're also really some elements of it are more Agile. At the team level they're Agile, but maybe at the business layer they're more traditional. No, better, and don't get overwhelmed by it. Just little piece by piece. Be Agile about it. Think about Mona Lisa slices of it, right? And that's what I did. It took me 11 months, so it wasn't something that I cranked out in a weekend. So think of it like running a marathon. You don't just fall out of bed. It's a very ambitious topic, actually, when you think about it. But we just gave you that first Mona Lisa slice. But it's valuable. Where this could go, but there's so many different aspects and elements of it. But at a very high level, you got the Agile Manifesto, and that's really the important thing, is to really look at that document, go to that website, and then think about what is that really. Anywhere it says working software, just replace it with value. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak to your group today.